My sister's confident smirk dissolved the moment the federal marshal stepped into the executive boardroom. Only seconds earlier, she had been standing at the head of the mahogany table, passing around the legal documents that would terminate my employment and strip me of my shares in our family business. She was flashing that sharp, predatory smile she always saved for my lowest moments. Then the heavy oak door swung open. A man in a dark suit placed a thick sealed folder directly on top of her meticulously prepared hostile takeover presentation. The room filled with our board of directors fell completely silent. For the first time in her life, she looked entirely powerless and terrified. But to understand how a simple software patch dismantled a multi-million-dollar corporate coup, you need to know what she did first. Before we dive into this story of betrayal and justice, make sure you are subscribed and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from today. Welcome to Revenge Stories Narrated, where family betrayal meets inevitable justice and karma always collects its debt. My name is Valerie. I am 34 years old, and until recently, I was the director of production for our family-owned industrial ceramics empire. My grandfather built a massive facility that engineers high-stress ceramic components for the aerospace and medical device industries. When he passed away, the company was split equally between my older sister Monica and me, though our board of directors held the ultimate voting power. I never cared about the politics of the corner office. I was a floor manager at heart. I spent my days walking the concrete factory floor listening to the hum of the industrial kills and optimizing our production schedules. Monica, however, was our chief financial officer. She lived for the power, the prestige, the designer clothes, and the bottom line. I thought we made a balanced team. I had no idea she viewed my dedication to the daily operations as a weakness, or that she was actively weaponizing my own department against me. The nightmare began quietly. It started with a single missing shipment of specialized zirconium powder required for our most lucrative medical client. I had personally verified the inventory, but when the kills were prepped, the raw materials were gone. The vendor claimed they never received the final payment authorization. We missed the client deadline, and our company had to absorb a severe financial penalty to save the contract. I assumed it was a simple software glitch. But 3 weeks later, a crucial shipment of industrial thermal sensors was inexplicably delayed at customs because the international vendor payment had not cleared. I marched into the office, Monica occupied, demanding to know why finance had not wired the funds. She looked at me with a perfectly crafted expression of sympathy and pulled up a screen showing that my department had supposedly entered the wrong routing number. I knew I had not made that mistake, but the digital footprint in the system had my unique authorization code on it. Over the next 3 months, my department began to bleed. Long-standing clients started receiving defective batches. Important blueprints were suddenly missing from our secure servers. Every time a disaster struck, Monica was there shaking her head and presenting the board of directors with profit-loss reports directly tied to my division. The tension in the office became suffocating. Monica started bringing in outside efficiency consultants who shadowed my every move on the factory floor, asking insulting questions about my basic competency. They treated me like a confused intern. She was deliberately building a narrative. She would casually mention my stress levels during executive meetings, suggesting that I was burning out and incapable of handling the modern demands of our grandfather and his legacy. The true gut punch came when our largest aerospace client threatened to terminate a 5-year contract after 50,000 heat shields were manufactured with the wrong thermal specifications. Monica called an emergency board meeting. She played the tragic, concerned older sister perfectly. She told the board that my operational failures were driving the company into bankruptcy and formally requested that I be placed on administrative leave. She was systematically destroying my professional reputation, preparing to steal my inheritance through a forced buyout clause in our corporate charter. The truth finally revealed itself on a rainy Tuesday night at 2 a.m. I was alone in the factory server room, bypassing our main administrative interface to look at the raw data logs of our production software. I was searching for any sign of an external hack. Instead, I found a ghost in the machine. I noticed a recurring string of code attached to every delayed shipment and penalty fee over the past 6 months. It was an automated redirect. Whenever a high-value manufacturing contract was finalized, the system intentionally delayed the raw material payment authorization by exactly 48 hours, triggering a late penalty. But the penalties were not being paid to our material vendors. They were being routed to a third-party logistics consulting firm. I pulled the corporate registration for the consulting firm using an online database. It was an automated shell corporation registered in Delaware. The original funding for the shell company came from a private offshore account I recognized from an old tax document Monica had accidentally left on the copier 3 years ago. I did not shout. I did not smash my keyboard. A strange, icy calm washed over me. My sister was not just sabotaging my career to take my half of the company. She was actively embezzling millions of dollars in manufactured penalty fees to artificially drain the company value, making it cheap enough for her to buy my shares for pennies on the dollar. If you have ever been underestimated by someone who should have supported you, hit the like button. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments, because stories like this happen more often than people realize. If I confronted her now, she would simply delete the routing code, claim it was a rogue employee, and use her influence over the board to fire me anyway. I needed undeniable proof. I needed a trap she could not escape from. I needed to let her think she was winning while I slowly closed the cage around her. The next morning I walked into the office, looking utterly defeated. I stopped wearing makeup. I stopped arguing in meetings. When Monica publicly criticized my latest production schedule, I simply nodded, looked at the ground, and apologized. I fed her massive ego, letting her believe she had completely broken my spirit. Behind the scenes, I went to war. I cashed out my personal savings and hired an elite forensic accounting firm specializing in corporate fraud. But they needed uninterrupted access to the encrypted financial ledgers Monica controlled. To get that, I had to use the very procurement software she was manipulating. I secretly wrote a patch into our production dispatch system. To the naked eye, it looked like a standard software security update. In reality, it was a mirror. Every time the hidden code Monica wrote triggered a fake penalty fee and siphoned money to her shell company, my patch copied the transaction data and forwarded it directly to my forensic accountants on a secure external server. The audience in the office thought I was a dead woman walking. What they did not know was that I was purposefully feeding Monica massive, high-value dummy manufacturing contracts. I used old client data to create ghost orders that looked like multi-million-dollar deals. I deliberately created the perfect conditions for her to steal. I watched in real time as her greed overtook her caution. She began draining funds faster and faster, completely unaware that she was building her own federal indictment with every single keystroke. The turning point arrived during the annual shareholder meeting. This was the moment Monica had been orchestrating for almost a year. The entire board of directors was present, along with our external investors and the company legal counsel. Monica took the floor looking radiant in a white designer suit. She projected a massive slide deck onto the screen detailing the devastating financial losses my department had allegedly caused. She handed out glossy, heavy folders to every board member. Inside were projected bankruptcies and a legal motion to remove me from my position with cause, forcing a mandatory surrender of my shares. She placed a hand over her chest and actually forced a tear to well up in her eye, claiming I lacked the capacity to lead and was bleeding the family dry. Our oldest uncle, who served as the lead investor, nodded grimly, clearly convinced by her manufactured evidence. Monica looked across the mahogany table at me, her eyes gleaming with absolute triumph. She believed she had already won. The chairman of the board asked if I had anything to say before they called the final vote. I slowly stood up, smoothing the front of my jacket. I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a single thin silver flash drive. I told the board that I completely agreed with Monica and that we had a fiduciary duty to our grandfather to stop the bleeding, which is why I brought a different set of numbers to review. I plugged the drive into the presentation laptop. The glossy bankruptcy graphs vanished from the projector, replaced by a dense, incredibly detailed schematic of financial routing numbers. The forensic audit was now fully visible. Monica demanded to know what I was projecting, her confident mask finally slipping. I told the board that this was the actual destination of our missing company funds. I clicked the presentation, remote zooming in on the Delaware shell company, the offshore accounts, and a high-resolution copy of the personal passport Monica used to open them. I explained that she had embezzled over $4 million into a private account, purposely tanking the company valuation to steal my equity for nothing. The silence in the boardroom was absolute. Our uncle flipped through the forensic audit, the color completely draining from his face. Monica jumped up, her heavy leather chair crashing to the floor behind her. She screamed that it was a fabrication and accused me of hacking her terminal. I replied that I knew she would say exactly that, which is why I did not just bring these findings to the board today. Right on cue, the heavy oak doors of the boardroom swung open. The victory speech died in her throat as a federal marshal stepped into the room, followed by 2 agents from the Criminal Investigation Division. They handed the chairman a federal warrant for the financial servers and handed Monica a subpoena. Her smug expression evaporated, instantly replaced by raw, unadulterated terror. The board immediately voted to strip her of all executive powers on the spot. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Facing mountains of undeniable digital evidence and federal tax evasion charges, the legal team representing Monica folded within weeks. To avoid a lengthy prison sentence, she was forced to sign a plea agreement that required her to pay back every stolen cent plus massive fines and surrender her entire 50% stake directly back to the corporate treasury. She was permanently barred from holding a fiduciary position in any company ever again. She now works as an entry-level clerk in a different state. With her toxic presence completely removed, the board unanimously voted to promote me to Chief Executive Officer. I restructured the finance department, implemented transparent oversight, and personally apologized to every vendor she had manipulated. Within a year, our profit margins broke company records, and the work environment transformed into a true family business where our workers felt valued. I kept the glossy folder she handed out that day framed in my office as a quiet daily reminder that the truth always leaves a digital footprint. If this story reminded you that the truth always comes out eventually, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave your thoughts in the comments, subscribe for more stories, and I will see you in the next story.